Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunga Vipari Kunga Vipari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vajjana Ranjana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Chari Chari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pariharika Chari Stota Siddha Shishimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pariharika Charya Stota Siddha Shishimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Prabhupada had taken similar chances. At Jhansi in 1953, he had occupied a building, although he had had little legal standing or financial security. And in his first storefront in New York, as well as in his largest building to date, the Wet'suwet'en Avenue Church in Los Angeles, he had moved in without assurance of the monthly payments. Practically the entire success of his movement had come by his taking one risk after another for Krishna. When the devotees in Boston had written to Prabhupada that they had rented a big house for $1,000 a month, calculating that they would be able to make the payments by dramatically increasing their Back to Godhead sales, Prabhupada had approved and had even commended their example to others. So if some risks were involved in Bombay, that was only natural. Once committed to the land, Prabhupada began to unfold his vision for a grand project in Bombay. On December 22nd, he wrote to Yamuna, "Here in Bombay, we have got good prospects to purchase a very large land in Juhu for a very cheap price, just in the middle of a rich neighborhood. We shall build our camp there and begin constructing a temple immediately. And later on, we shall develop a large hotel and school. There is also a chance of getting a nice bungalow in Bombay city also. So in general, we shall make our headquarters in Bombay and also build up Vrindavan and Mayapur." While devotees around the world delighted to hear Prabhupada's plan for a Bombay center, devotees in Bombay had mixed feelings. To envision a temple rising from what was little more than a jungle tract was not easy, nor was it easy to envision the first five-star hotel Prabhupada spoke of. The tenement buildings in the rear of the land were fully occupied, and according to Indian law, the tenants could not be removed. If the devotees moved onto the land, they would have to erect temporary housing, maybe even a temporary temple, and the land was mosquito-ridden and teeming with rats. Juhu was a small, almost isolated neighborhood, without wealthy ISKCON supporters. Although Prabhupada and land speculators predicted that Juhu would grow, at present it was only a village of about 2,000. To reside at Juhu would be a drastic contrast to the comfortable Akash Ganga building in downtown Bombay. Tamal Krishna explained to Prabhupada, "We are Westerners. We cannot live like this. We need doorknobs and running water." "Don't you want to become purified?" Prabhupada replied. I'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the 5th canto, chapter 18, entitled The Prayers Offered to the Lord by the Residents of Jambudvip, text 28. Bhavan Yugan Tarnava Urmi Malini Kshonimimam O Shadi Viruddham Nidim. Text 28. Maya Sohoru Kramateja Ojasa Tasmai Jagat Prana Ganatmane Nama Iti. Bhavan Yugan Tarnava Urmi Malini Kshonimimam O Shadi Viruddham Nidim. Maya Sohoru Kramateja Ojasa Tasmai Jagat Prana Ganatmane Nama Iti. Bhavan Yugan Tarnava Urmi Malini Shonimimam Oshadi Viruddham Nidim. Maya Sohoru Kramateja Ojasa Tasmai Jagat Prana Ganatmane Nama Iti. Word for word, Bhavan, your lordship, Yuga Anta Arnave, in the water of devastation at the end of the millennium. Urmi Malini, possessing rows of big waves. Shonim, the planet Earth. Imam, this. Oshadi, Viruddham, of all kinds of herbs and drugs. Nidim, the storehouse. Maya, me. Saha, with. Uru, great. Kramate, you roamed. Aja, O unborn one. Ojasa, with speed. Tasmai, unto him. Jagat, of the entire universe. Pranagana Atmane, the ultimate source of life. Namaha, my respectful obeisances. Iti, thus. Translation. O Almighty Lord, at the end of the millennium, this planet Earth, which is the source of all kinds of herbs, drugs, and trees, was inundated by water and drowned beneath the devastating waves. At that time, you protected me along with the earth and roamed the sea with great speed. O unborn one, you are the actual maintainer of the entire universal creation, and therefore you are the cause of all living entities. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. Envious persons cannot appreciate how wonderfully the Lord creates, maintains, and annihilates the universe. But devotees of the Lord can understand this perfectly well. Devotees can see how the Lord is acting behind the wonderful workings of the material nature. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kunteya jagad viparivartate. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. All the wonderful transformations of nature are happening under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Envious persons cannot see this, but a devotee, even though very humble and even uneducated, knows that behind all activities of nature is the supreme hand of the Supreme Being. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Here We're continuing to hear the prayers by different residents of Jambudweep. An interesting sentence that stood out to me in this purport, which I'll focus on, is the last sentence. Prabhupada says, envious persons cannot see this. They cannot see that the hand of God is everywhere. But a devotee, even though very humble and even if uneducated, knows that behind all activities of nature is the supreme hand of the Supreme Being. The existence of God can be difficult to understand, but at the same time, easy to understand. It is actually self-evident that God exists. The simple logic one uses, a simple devotee, an honest person, they see the intricacies of nature, how complex, how intricate, how complete it is, yet how it is simultaneously harmonious. And so by seeing that, they automatically conclude there must be God. They add 1 plus 1 equals 2. This is logic. It is a form of evidence. But at the same time, it's very simple evidence. There is a saying, Vaishnavata, Sharalata hi Vaishnavata. Simplicity is Vaishnavism. Simplicity doesn't mean naivety, unthinking, dull, and stupid. Simplicity just means clear, direct, straightforward, honest. And so there's 3 kinds of Vedic evidence. One of them is anuman, logical inference. Logical inference means one sees an effect and concludes that there must be a cause. In other words, one sees a painting and doesn't think by what chemical composition has this painting come about. No, they conclude there is a painting. Who is the person who painted it? There is a pot. There must be a potter. There is smoke. Therefore, there must be fire. This is logical inference. It's using one's faculty of intellect to make a logical conclusion. And so this is sufficient evidence, actually, of God. But envious persons do not accept such simple propositions because they have a hidden agenda to defy the existence of God so they can live according to however they deem fit without any authority watching over them or sanctioning their activities. So, Sharalata hi Vaishnavata, a devotee is very simple. A simple person can become a devotee. There are examples of the simplicity. We hear of Narada Muni, a transcendental spaceman, who was walking on the road and he came across a Brahmana. The Brahmana was very expert in ritualistic activities, very punctual, very advanced in knowledge. So the Brahmana told Narada, I hear you go to Vaikuntha to visit Narayan. When you go see him, can you ask him, when is it that I will be able to come to him? Narada said, okay, I'll do that. Continuing to walk on the road, he saw a cobbler, very poor, simple, uneducated, seemingly. So the cobbler said, Narada, I hear you go visit Narayan. Can you ask him, when will I see him? Narada said, okay, I'll do that. So sure enough, Narada went to Vaikuntha to visit Narayan. And after exchanging pleasantries, he told him, my lord, there's these 2 personalities. They want to know, when will they come to you? Narayan said, the Brahmana, although I am omniscient, I don't know when he's coming back. It may take millions of births. I have no clue. In other words, he's not coming back anytime soon. The cobbler, tell him he'll come back to me just after this life. So Narada went back. First, Narada was confused. So he said, oh, my lord, how is this? So he said, when you go see them, they'll ask you, when you saw Narayan, what was he doing? And you just tell them that Narayan was threading an elephant through an eye of a needle. And by their response, you'll understand why I've made this decision. So Narada went to the Brahmana. The Brahmana said, "Oh, you got some news for me?" He said, "Yeah, sorry, brother, you're not coming back." So the Brahmana was, "What do you mean? I'm doing everything right. I'm following the process mechanically. Everything is perfect. 1 + 1 = 2. I do this, I go back to Krishna, go back to Narayan." So he said, Actually, I don't believe you. If you actually went to see Narayan, tell me, when you saw him, what was he doing?" So the Brahmana said, sorry, Narada said, Narayan, he was threading an elephant through an eye of a needle. So the Brahmana, being very logical, he said, it's not possible. An elephant is huge, the eye of a needle is very tiny. So through logic, it cannot be. You did not see Narayan. So by this response, Narada knew this Brahmana has no faith, he has no simplicity, and therefore he's not going to achieve the result. Then he went to the cobbler. When will I come to my Lord? Did he tell you? Narada said, just after this life, you're coming back. The cobbler couldn't believe it. Me? Humble me, I'm coming back? Tell me, when you saw Narayan, what was he doing? Narada replied the same. He was threading an elephant through an eye of a needle. And the cobbler was in ecstasy. How wonderful my Lord is. He can do such amazing things as put an elephant through an eye of a needle, and amazing things that he can take me back as well, although I'm so unqualified. So Narada, he asks, my dear cobbler, how is this? How can you accept that an elephant is going through the eye of a needle? So the Brahmana use one kind of logic to nullify or refute that this is possible. But the cobbler, he also used logic, and he said, I'm sitting underneath this tree, and there's so many fruits that are falling. Within every fruit, I open it, there are so many seeds. If I take one seed and put it in the ground, a whole tree can grow from that one seed. So if my Lord can fit a tree into a seed, why can he not fit an elephant through an eye of a needle? And this way Narada understood. He's coming back. He is simple, pure in heart, non-envious. And Narayan has accepted him. So in the same vein, Prabhupada described how the temples and mosques are filled with women. He said women are more devotional than men, and that is due to their simplicity, which is not a disadvantage. It is a qualification by which allows them to be receptive to the message of God, to the existence of God. So this simplicity allows one to be receptive. Prabhupada himself, in many places we hear how simple he was, how innocent. Actually, he was so innocent that one time he was trying to get residency for America, and he suggested to two of his Grihastha disciples that maybe they can adopt him as a tactic to get his residency. Also, when he first came to New York, he saw snow and he thought that the buildings were whitewashed. And when he told the devotees this, the devotees couldn't believe how innocent Prabhupada could be. So in his simplicity, uh, he was sitting in his room in Vrindavan when one of his friends, acquaintances, Bhagat Ji, his name was, he came to see Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was just sitting there motionless. And so Bhagat Ji couldn't figure out what was happening. So after sitting in the room for a prolonged period, Prabhupada finally realized that Bhagat Ji was there. And he said, oh, welcome. And Bhagat Ji, he replied, Prabhupada, you look like you were in samadhi. You were in total meditation. And Prabhupada replied, yes, I was observing these mosquitoes. How wonderfully Krishna has made them. How their wings and their legs are so perfectly arranged, and all of them are exactly the same. So Prabhupada also used a similar logical inference, Anuman, how such a wonderful creature can exist, made with such design and perfection that there must be an intelligence behind it all. So again, Sharalata hi Vaishnavata. The simplicity allows a person to accept the existence of God. In society today, people want to see God. Seeing is another kind of evidence, pratyaksha, direct perception. One can see fire, one can hear sounds, one can touch, one can taste and acquire knowledge of the world around them. So people want to, they say, if God exists, then why can I not see him? But there are many things actually you cannot see, but they exist. We can't see time, but we accept that it is there by its influence, by the symptoms of time. Time is changing, time is destroying things. We can't see air, but we accept it by experiencing it. We can't see gravity, but we know that it exists by the effects that uh, it pulls things, it grounds things, stabilizes them to the earth. The higher form of evidence is anuman, logical inference, but actually through logic alone, one cannot totally prove the existence of God. One can come close to an understanding that yes, God exists, because consistency is one definition of truth. But logic can't deny or totally nullify the existence of God. It totally can't verify that he exists. It can bring you closer to that understanding. The highest proof, the highest anuman is shabda, revelation. So in all religious traditions, this kind of proof is used. The Bible is said to be revealed knowledge. The Quran is revelation. The Vedas, for sure, are revealed knowledge. They give us an understanding of things that are beyond our direct perception and beyond our faculty of intelligence to perceive of. So Srila Prabhupada would often give the example, which likely is found in the Vedas, that how can you know that your father exists? By perceiving, by going around asking every man on the surface of the earth, are you my father? Does he look like me? Does he have my facial features? By analyzing in that way, can you find out who your father is? No. By DNA test, maybe to some degree, maybe nowadays it's necessary. But actually, in a real civilization, one will know who the father is simply by asking the mother. So the mother is the Vedas, and the Vedas, they give knowledge of who the father is. Pitaham asya jagato. Krishna is the supreme father. And the Vedas give us an understanding of who he is, what he looks like, how to connect with him. But in a deeper sense, actually, even the Vedas are not sufficient to know God in totality. The Vedas are better than logic. Shabda is better than logic because, for example, logic says that cow dung is impure. But through the Vedas, we understand that it's antiseptic, that it's pure. And now, through experience and through scientific analysis, science has also accepted that yes, cow dung is pure, although logic says otherwise. So yes, Shabda is greater, but Krishna says, Brahma says, Vedeshu Durlabham. By the Vedas, Krishna is very difficult to know. There's contradictory statements within the Vedas. There's thousands and thousands of books by which one has to sift through to come to a conclusion. One also has to have developed intelligence to be able to understand it all. But Adurlabham Atma Bhakto, Lord Brahma prays, by devotion, by Atma Bhakti, you are very easy to understand. So in the world today, people don't like authority. If you tell them you want to know God, here's the authority. Read this book. They reject it. They take experience as the highest authority. So Krishna actually accepts that. He says the highest evidence will be when you experience for yourself. So therefore, in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam. This knowledge, this Shabda, can be directly perceived. By your senses, you can experience that I am a reality. So he gives a process by which we can apply and ultimately to get to know him. When we experience Krishna in our life, nothing can shake us. We have experience of so many times, we meet Christians on the street, and they sincere ones as well. They feel compassion for us. Jesus is the only way, and I can tell you're a really good person. You're here sharing these books with everyone, so I want to help you. Let me try to convince you of Jesus, and you can come back to him. So devotees, even a beginning devotee, by experiencing Krishna in their life, they can listen to anyone and everyone and know that it doesn't matter what you say, I'm not changing my religion. Because I have tangible experience of Krishna in my life, that Krishna is a reality. People who are insecure in their faith, often they won't accept or lend an ear to any other philosophy. If you try to give a Bhagavad Gita to a Christian, why won't they accept it? Why won't they look at it? They're afraid. Oh no, I can't look at this. Maybe if I look too much, I will lose faith in Jesus Christ. I will be swayed and enter into this new tradition, which is not mine. So everyone you'll see in many traditions, they're reluctant to open or to hear knowledge of another, deep down due to insecurity in their own practice. So Krishna says that the ultimate proof is realization. Apply it in your life, you will verify that I exist, and this will be the ultimate evidence. Because there are two kinds of atheists. There is what's called a philosophical atheist, a person who may argue in so many ways that God doesn't exist. They may write books, many of which are very popular, like The God Delusion, or God is Not Great, or The End of Faith. A very popular book was called Why I'm Not a Christian. This is probably one we can read as well. But all of these philosophies are put by people who want to defy the existence of God so they can go on doing whatever they like. But then there is what's called the psychological atheist, who says, I believe in God. They can give you so many arguments. They can quote the Bhagavad Gita. They can say, Jai Shri Krishna. But they also do whatever they like. Psychologically, they have not accepted that all my activities are witnessed by the Super Soul, that Krishna is there. He's my dearest friend, my well-wisher, the enjoyer, the ultimate controller. So we may be philosophically theists, but we may have the psychology of an atheist. So therefore, to come to that platform, application is necessary, which leads to realization. But all of it begins by education, by Shabda. Education is the core of our practice. Srila Prabhupada, upon incorporating ISKCON, he wrote 7 purposes of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. And 5 out of 7 were educational. The last one was emphasizing the distribution of Krishna conscious literature. And he said, by this distribution of Krishna conscious literature, all the aforementioned purposes will be achieved. It shows how much faith Prabhupada had in book distribution. He also once said, book distributions means education, means sharing knowledge with the world. So it's described that ultimately up to the platform of Nishta, bhakti is practiced on the platform of intelligence. So therefore, Prabhupada implemented a daily Bhagavatam class. He said that my books are for reading, they're not just for distributing. The more that we hear, the more we accept Krishna's existence, because actually hearing on its own is a process of devotional service. Because one may say that how many people in the world today are into education? Education is generally for the brahmanas. Even when a child is young in Vedic culture, the brahmanas, the Brahminical children, are the ones who are enter into the Gurukul. It's not for everyone. But nowadays the world is full of technology and artists. These are the people who get the glory. And technologists and artists, they fall into the Shudra category. They're not intellectual. Just because a person is able to code doesn't mean that a person is a brahmana. And artists, they're giving the greatest glorification. They're paid the highest salaries. So everyone and their grandmother nowadays wants to be an artist, wants to use technology. How many people are into education? Not many, but education doesn't have to be like complete analytical, detailed knowledge. The one actually just has to have a minimal standard of education will be sufficient for them to enter into the laboratory of bhakti. So for most devotees, we just need to know a little bit. And we need to hear repeatedly, because by hearing, one becomes established in the conviction that Krishna is God. Prabhupada, a very wonderful statement in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, by transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in their conviction. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. But by mere academic knowledge, one can easily become deluded by apparent contradictions. So a minimal standard of education is necessary for the devotees to continue. And hearing regularly, one gets faith within the sound vibration of the Bhagavatam. Although we're speaking in English, it's not Sanskrit poetry, eloquently spoken. But Krishna becomes manifest because the devotee is speaking his glories. So within that sound vibration, Krishna enters into the atmosphere, enters into the heart of the devotee. The devotee becomes propelled in their practice on their journey back home, back to Godhead. And as soon as that hearing process, that education is removed, then one begins to become educated by the illusory energy. You see, in the development of activity, first there is thinking, then there is feeling, and then there is willing. So the thinking comes from sound. What we hear develops a certain thought. There's the external sound, and then there's the internal sound in our head. The internal sound develops a desire, a willingness, and from that willingness, one begins to act in the world. So we stop hearing about Krishna, we will hear from the illusory energy, then we begin to think, will, and act in a certain way. And so Prabhupada, he famously said, because some devotees may say, you don't need knowledge. Our process is just chanting, dancing, and feasting. So Prabhupada, he said, actually, no. If you do not hear, there won't be no more chanting and dancing. There will be eating and sleeping and falling down. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, there's a verse which describes that one becomes strong and stout by eating food grains. But a devotee who does not hear of the pastimes of the Lord, but simply takes food grains, will become weak and fall from the standard of devotional service. So there Prabhupada says, all the devotees who have accepted this Krishna consciousness movement, they should be careful to read all our literatures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. But if they do not do this, they will certainly eat, sleep, and fall away from the standard. So a devotee is simple, Sharalata hi Vaishnavata, but at the same time, a devotee is most intelligent. Simplicity or innocence does not equal ignorance. There are two separate things. So the devotee can be simultaneously innocent and the most intelligent. All the devotees who have accepted Mahaprabhu are described in that way in the Bhagavatam. Yajanti hi sumedasaha. Those who are intelligent in the age of Kali, they will worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in conclusion, God exists. It's self-evident just by observing the world around us. It's very easy to see. Prabhupada famously said, he was asked, have you seen God? And he replied, yes. Have you seen the sun? Have you seen the moon? That means you have also seen God. So it's very evident in the world around us. The problem is that there's a preconceived, or you can say preconceptions that are downloaded into the individual that makes them reject obvious information when it's presented. Like during COVID, they coined these two terms, disinformation and misinformation. Uh, because there's so much, like so many people trying to tell you this and this and this theory, maybe it's that theory. So then you just become confused. So then they coin these terms so you can try to decipher what to listen to, what not to listen to. So because we have so much disinformation in our brain, when we're presented with simple logical conclusions, we reject it. So they have made mathematical formulas and theories of evolution and the Big Bang. So then when you hear that it's pretty obvious 1 + 1 = 2, you're like, no, there has to be some like Big Bang that happened and evolution. And for example, in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada describes that there's only one sun, and all the stars are not suns. They're reflecting the light of the sun, just like the moon. So a lot of people have a problem with this, particularly those who have studied and were into astronomy, because their whole life they're hearing, no, all these stars are twinkling on their own. So then when they hear that, they're like, this can't be true. This is wrong. And then they reject the whole thing. But when I heard it, I was like, oh, it sounds great. Because I wasn't into astronomy. I couldn't care less. And in my day-to-day life, whether the sun, whether the stars shine on their own or whether they reflect the light of the sun, what does it make a difference to my life? There's inconsequential to me. But because they have this idea embedded in their brain, then no, I can't accept this. My Guru Maharaj gives this example of it's like the best piano school in the world in Italy. And so for a person who wants to learn there, they have a certain fee, which is already quite expensive. But for a person who wants to learn and they already have some previous education in piano, they charge them even more because they have to relearn. They have to basically clean up all the misconceptions in their mind and their technique to be able to teach them again. So similarly, if we don't have any pre-misconceptions, things downloaded into us, then when we read the Bhagavad Gita, well, actually just when we observe the world around us, it's very easy to conclude that God exists. When I first read Bhagavad Gita and I heard that God is a cowherd boy, I immediately thought, wow, this makes so much sense. It just made sense. God is enjoying. We all want to enjoy. Why does he have to do anything elaborate? Why can't he just enjoy with his cowherd boys in the pasture, in the fields? Very simple. And my heart accepted it. So simplicity is Vaishnavism. The more simple we become, the more honest we are, the greater our faith will become. I'll stop here if anybody would like to ask or add anything. Hare Krishna Prabhu's.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much. Explaining the verse very nicely and particularly stressing the point that simplicity is Vaishnavism. That is, a Vaishnava is simple. But at the same time, he is intelligent, he is not dull. He understands the things in the proper perspective as against those whose, because of the material knowledge, has contaminated and has preconceived ideas. They cannot think of the Lord and they cannot see the Lord because the sense is defective. They do not accept it at the beginning. That we have defective senses, and because of that, we cannot see the God with that senses, as Prabhupada is often told. And we have to hear from the authorities about the Lord. And only we have faith on our gurus and the parampara, and the knowledge has come from the Lord Himself. So we accept it as the truth. And so for those who accept it in a simple way, they can know about the Lord. And as you have told, another example Prabhupada has told, when he was asked to, have you seen the Lord? And he is told, if you see the moon, if you can see the stars, then you can see the moon, you can see the Lord, because he is behind it. One has to understand that. And the devotee understand that as against the materialistic. And so, and particularly in the age of science, people often say, but if we look at the science, I remember in my school days, we used to read atomic theory in the school. But when I went to the college and went to our honors class in chemistry, then we found the things are changing, because the model given in the school is rejected when we enter the college. And so it is ever changing things. That means they are never in the truth. They are in a speculative situation, and they think that it is good and it is truth. So that is the problem with the scientific people. What they are thinking today, tomorrow they are changing it. That means what was yesterday was wrong. But they don't say that the present is also wrong. They do not accept it often. So, with that, you have very nicely told about the story of Narad Muni. And the cobbler, he has also got his own logic. And because of his simplicity, he accepts the Lord. But a person who is just educated in his Brahmin, who was doing his things mechanically, he thinks that he is superior, but this is not the case as the Lord has decided. So we go by that and accept the very core things you have just told. That's one who accept in a simple mind, just like a child, that what has come from the authorities is truth. He is a true Vaishnava, and it is possible for him to go back to the Lord very quickly, unlike those who have complicated minds. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay. If there's nothing else, we can stop here. Oh,
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you very much for your nice class and nice insights on this topic. Prabhu, just one thought came to mind. You said that, yeah. So yes, people who are not confident in their faith or confident in their philosophy, uh, they are afraid to see the other books, and they're not encouraged to see the other books. So how do you understand, like, even in our tradition we say, oh no, don't look at that book, don't read this book. Sometimes we hear we say that as well. So how do
Yes.
understand that? Yeah, I just wanted to, yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, there's different stages of devotees. So the Kanishta Adhikari, his faith is very weak. The Madhyama Adhikari, he can argue Shastra, but he's also not in a total stage of perfection. And the Uttama Adhikari, he knows the Shastras perfectly, he can convince others of them as well. So in our beginning stages of devotional service, yeah, we should also be careful. Many times we have persons who we are cultivating, trying to help them in the process of Krishna consciousness. And we also have to protect them from different kinds of association. Because if they associate with some devotees who are in themselves are not very strong, or they associate with other devotees who are into like controversies and things that can shake their own faith, then they fall into trouble. So it's described that when you're growing plants, the beginning stages, you have to take care of the creeper, protect it very nicely. But when the tree grows, when the plant grows, it becomes into a very sturdy tree, it can weather all kinds of storms and not be shaken. So in the beginning stages, yes, we should be careful. And then gradually we can expose ourselves to all kinds of knowledge. At the same time, even a neophyte devotee, after reading Prabhupada's books so logically and authoritatively presented, if they read the Bhagavad Gita and then they compare it with the Bible, it's like incomparable. The Bible is like difficult to understand. Many contradictions are there. It's just not very clear. So what I appreciated about Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita when I first read it is that it was very consistent from beginning to end, very authoritative. And I had read the Quran many times before. I had read some philosophical books. None was as clear, as direct, as consistent as Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. So within the Vaishnav tradition, there's different kinds of knowledge. There's esoteric knowledge, there's different sampradayas. And one has to be careful because Guru Bhakti, Guru Nishta is the basic principle for advancement in devotional service. So yes, there's different categories of spiritual knowledge. Some will be incomparable. So we can read so many things, we won't be diverted. But within the Vaishnav tradition, there's going to be different opinions. And sometimes we may not be able to reconcile them all. And if we read something that becomes detrimental to our faith in Guru, then that's going to be our downfall. So even if we're advanced, we have to be careful. And also we don't want to read things that are beyond our level of advancement and begin to think that I'm so advanced now, I'm in the higher stages of rasa. So the principle is, yes, we want to protect our bhakti and be intelligent and strategic in how we do that by understanding realistically where I am in devotional service and how much is it that I can digest. So therefore, Prabhupada, one time, the devotees tried to read books by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Prabhupada replied to them, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's books are for me. My books are for you. And also he told them, be careful, do not associate with my god brothers because they are envious. They're in the same sampradaya, but they're going to try to get into your head. And actually, I just had a realization of this just recently. One devotee by chance told me, there's a devotee who I really like. And one devotee by chance told me something about this devotee that I didn't expect. So that one word the devotee said made me see the person in a whole different light. Just one word, then you see the person in a total, because your mind kind of holds on to it. So then when you see them, you're just thinking of that one thing the devotee told. And then another devotee, I asked him about this, another older devotee. I said, I heard this and that. And he told me something totally different. So immediately my misconception was removed. So I was seeing how, the mind is very easily influenced. And so we have to protect, just like if we have a child and we want them to grow nicely, then the parent does so many things to protect that child. Similarly, the creeper of devotional service within our heart, it's very valuable and it can easily be trampled over. So those are some thoughts I can give.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for that.
Hare Krishna. Thanks for the nice question. Okay, I thank you all for allowing me to speak on the Bhagavatam. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripasindhubhaivacha patitanam bhavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. His Grace
Vrindavan Madhurya Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanandi.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.